the introduction to the image editor. In this video you will make the iris for our bunny. You'll learn how to export an image with transparency. Only use Blender, so there will be some limitations, and understand that there are better programs for image creation and editing such as Photoshop, GIMP, etc. So let's hop straight on over into Blender. So previously on Blender we had our eyes that we just created here. Now I just want to highlight one thing before we go any further, because we won't be working on these eyes directly at the moment. But if we go to flat shading in the tool shelf here, you'll notice that I've actually angled these eyes facing outwards from the bunny. So we've used a UV sphere, and this will act as the centre of our pupil, and then the iris will go around here. So it's worthwhile, if you haven't done already, rotating your eyes around so they're actually facing outwards from your rabbit. Of course, if necessary, turn the rabbit mesh back on, unhide it so you can do that. And then once you've done that, we can hop into a brand new Blender file. So let's go ahead and open one now. Now, just before we get going, a few of you may be wondering, well, why aren't we just creating the geometry we need straight away on the eye, rather than going ahead and creating an image to put on the eye? Well, it's all to do with the level of detail required and the processing power required. To make a realistic iris, as you're about to see, is going to add lots and lots of polygons to our scene if we were to make it real and have geometry to it. But what we are going to do is create the geometry that we need to create the effect we want, and we're going to do what's called baking. We're going to solidify that into a picture and then use that picture, i.e. a texture, within our model itself. So let's carry on now and go ahead and make that iris. Okay, so with a brand new start, let's go ahead and create an iris. So what is an iris? Well, it's a circle. So let's get rid of our cube. And what we're going to do here is add a circle into our scene. We're going to have to fill it. Now, it's entirely up to you. Be as artistic. You've got free reign, basically. You can make this how you like, but we do need to fill it. And I'm going to fill it with a triangle fan, and I'm only going to fill it with 16, 32. Yeah, 32 is fine. And I'm going to make the radius of 3, so it's quite a big circle. And we're going to look at it from the top. Now, I've got an option turned on. I briefly mentioned it before. When I go into top, side, front, etc., it automatically switches to orthographic projection. And that, just to remind you guys, is under User Preferences, Interface, and here, Auto Perspective. Very powerful. I find it incredibly useful. You may or may not like that turned on and off. Do experiment with it. Great little tip there. Okay, so now we've got our circle, let's hop over into edit mode and just have a quick look at it. Looks pretty good so far. I'm going to subdivide it a little. So I'm going to go down here on the tool shelf. In fact, I might as well make that a bit bigger. Oh no, I'm going to need the operator panel in a moment. Ooh, choices. Okay, I'm going to just hit subdivide twice there. So we've got this wiggly pattern going around, and I'm going to increase the level of fractals around here, so it just makes it a bit more jagged. Excellent. So now that I've done that, if we just render, obviously the camera's not in the right position at the moment, whenever we render something, it appears here in the image editor. And we will need to do this. This is going to be our image that's going to become our texture shortly. This is what we're going to be working on. So we can see straight away, by going through to the end, being lean about it, that the camera's not in the right place. So let's go ahead and shift the camera to the right view. Now we'll use something here. I'm going to hop back to the 3D view. We're going to use something here that we've done in the past, and that is switch to the camera, change the view to the camera as well. And once we've done that, I'm going to open up the properties panel here and lock the camera to view. Once we've done that, I'm going to use the manual options here to position the camera right above our object. Z coordinate here doesn't matter, and I'll tell you why it doesn't matter in a second. The rotation, 0, 0, and 90. Okay, brilliant. So this is how we would view it otherwise. So it's facing directly down on our scene at the moment. Now before we do anything else, the next thing we need to do is go to the camera properties, and I'm going to change it to orthographic. And that's why this distance here, the Z coordinate, doesn't matter, because in orthographic projection there is no zoom level, it's all the appropriate size. We will also need to go over to the render properties here and change the resolution. So I'm going to change the resolution here to 1024 by 1024. Oh, I've mistyped something there, 1024, there we go. So it's created a square around our circle that we've made. Finally, I'm going to give our circle a bit of colour, so I'm going to remember to unlock this option down here on the properties, because I'm going to move around in a moment. And I'm going to go to circle, add a material to that circle, and make it orange in this case. And let's go and render and see how that's looking. That's looking pretty good so far. Probably need a few more highlights and things like that in there. I'm actually going to use Blender Render in a moment, but I want to show you now, before we go any further, how to make this grey background actually transparent. Because it's different in Cycles and it's different in Blender Render. So I'm going to show you Cycles first, since it's actually on the screen. So we need to go to our render tab over here, and when we scroll down, there are two sections to be aware of. First of all, I'm always going to be rendering as a PNG. It's a lossless format. I'm going to make sure that it's RGB, red, green, blue, and A. It will be like that by default, but if you've changed it for some reason in the past, it will need to be that, because we need this final one, which is the alpha channel, which tells us the opacity of something, which eventually, if it's set at 0, means it's see-through and transparent. Of course, there's no transparent option in this area here under the output. However, further down under film, there's a button that says transparent. If we tick that and then do the render, we get, as we can see here, a transparency on the background. Finally, once you've done that with your rendering, what you will need to do is save it. So you go down here to where it says image, and we can save as image. And when you do that, I'm not in the right area at the moment, so I'm going to go to my Fluffy Bunny folder, which is this one here, yep, and I'm going to call it Iris Cycles, and click save. Now, if I was doing the same thing in Blender Render, then of course I would need to do something slightly different. So I'm going to switch to Blender Render at the top here. I'm going to click render, and it's not going to work at all because the materials are different. So let's go and add a material. I'm still on circles. I'm going to remove the material that was there. I'm going to create a new material and again make it orange and just see how that comes out. Perfect, there we go, we've got ourselves another iris, but it doesn't have a transparent background. So back over in the rendering tab over here, there's another option, it's under shading. So all of this, you still need RGBA, and up here, under shading, under alpha, you need to change that to transparent. And then if we go and render again, we've got a transparent background. And once again, you can go to image, and save as an image, and go to iris, and I'm going to call this not Cycles but BR, short for Blender Render in this case, and save the image. Now, a couple of other things. When you do your final image, of course you can change its resolution. At the moment it's 50% of 1024 by 1024 pixels, so you could up that for a higher quality. Play about with this. Obviously I've gone for this jagged thing here. You could make yourself a bullseye type eye if you wanted to. And a couple of other things to consider before you finish off the rendering. So let's talk about the image editor itself. So it's down here, it's UV and image editor, just there, that's where it is. And this is the view we've got. Now, further along, we've got our render result here. We've got a series of slots. So if I switch to slot 2, and let's say change the material here from this orange to more of a red, let's say, and render the image again, I can now directly compare things, because in slot 1 we're going to have our orange one, in slot 2 we're going to have our red one. So it's a great way of doing lots of different renders very quickly and seeing which one you like the most. So that's great. I think it's time to give you guys a challenge. Okay, I would like you to create your texture. So we're going to create an iris, save the final render as an image with transparency, and of course, and always, be creative. Share your results in the discussions, and pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's go ahead and create an iris. Right, so the first thing I want to do is, looking at my model, there are some sharp divisions here when in between these areas here. So I don't mind that so much, but I really do want. I'm going to do mine in Blender render, by the way. I don't want those sharp divisions, and I want a bit more of a shadow as it goes in. So in order to do that shadow, I'm going to hop into edit mode. I'm going to use deselect everything. Hit the C key, and I'm going, oh, I don't want vertex select, I probably want face select for this, and select those inner areas there, and I'm literally going to drag them down to create more of a dip. I'm going to do circle select again. Oh, no I'm not, I'm going to clear my selection first, then I'm going to do circle select, and select this middle area, hop round to the top view, yep, that's the right area. And I'm going to extrude that downwards. Not much, but enough. Yes, there are some faces left up here, which we could deal with, but let's see if it adds or detracts from our render. So let's go to render image and see how it looks. Yes, it does make it look a bit worse for wear when that comes through. I think I'm going to have to apply a subdivision surface modifier to our circle. I'm just going to render it straight again. Oh, that's much better. I do like that. It's not so jagged anymore, a bit more natural. But of course, I'm going to have to deal with these nasty edges raising up here. So let's go to the 3D view and go to here. So do circle select again, and I'm going to change the Z coordinate here of the things I've just selected appropriately. So I'm going to set it, let's try -0.5 initially. Global setting of -0.5, see if it moves it. No, that hasn't worked. So let's go in and manually select these edges here, pull them down. Let's go back and render and see how that looks. Wow, actually, thinking about it, I don't care too much about this middle because there's going to be a black pupil there. It's really this outside edge that I really care about. But let's just neaten it up ever so slightly, and those black lines aren't a bad thing. So back to the 3D view. There are a few other bits sticking up. Shouldn't concern ourselves too much with them. How's it all looking? Oh, it'd be interesting to see it from the other side actually. Raised rather than lowered. I'm liking the look of that. I'm going to select it all. I'm just going to add another subdivision surface, another subdivision here, and render that out. In fact, I need to do the render one, not just the one we're looking at. Render. That's much better, much more smooth. I don't like this red colour. So whilst the circle's still selected here, I don't have to go back to the 3D view. I can literally do it here. I'm going to name my material iris. I'm not sure which colour to go for. I quite like the orange from earlier actually. So let's just try that and render the image. I'm going to play with the specular colour here and make that a red rather than... Aha, that's starting to look a bit better. I'm going to increase the intensity, and of course you can play with this to your heart's content and just go backwards and forwards until you get what you want out of it. It's obviously different for everybody. I'm quite liking that texture there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File and Save as an Image, and I am going to name this one Iris Final. There we go, and save the image. So great! If you've not done already, please share your iris in the discussions, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.